So, there's something in the woods over there. Anyway, so this is where I'm at. It's my car. There's where I came in from the entrance to the park. And there's the trail I'm going to be walking on. Just want to make sure it's not a fucking animal or something. I'm sure the video just picked that up, whatever the fuck that was. You know what? While I'm here, I'm going to grab my knife. Just in case. You never fucking know. So, I'll start on my little walk here. So the whole point to this video, let's see, where do I start? It's a bit of a long story. Probably not going to be able to do the whole thing in this video because it is a lot and it's late, a little later than I wanted to be coming down here to do this. But I just had a lot of unexpected things happen and going on and whatnot. And I'm done putting it off, so I'm down here getting it done. So this is going to be about bullying, illegal harassment, and everything that entails and everything about it. And the point of it happening to me. So, I am 33 years old. I was born on May 14th, 1988. A little over 5 years ago, when I was 28, I believe in September of 2016, I think, 2017, 2016. It doesn't really matter. It was about over 5 years ago. Just trying to be as exact as I can. I mean, I'm going to be definitely as exact as I can. I was a little before that, and I was going out with this girl who I had known since I was 17. You know, a girl that, you know, I had a crush on since then, and we always talked off and on, and, you know, always wanted to be with, you know, type of thing. And she finally reached out to me on her own when I was 28, and I'm actually 27, and, you know, said she wanted to hang out, and, you know, one thing led to another, and everything was going good. And she ended up moving in with me, and, you know, things are going good. Then I figured out that she was a drug addict, doing heroin and shit. I know this because I used to be a drug dealer, which I got in trouble for, by the way. Paid my dues for it as well. And I was a drug addict myself, you know. So I kept trying to help her and trying to get her to quit, and she wouldn't. Then I found out she was selling heroin to some of her friends and to support her habit. And I also found out she was getting it from her ex-boyfriend, who she was hanging out with all the time at his house behind my back. I actually had this funny feeling about it. And I remember she had mentioned to me where he lived, because she was just telling me about him before I figured out any of this. And I took a ride to where I figured it was. And there she was, with him in a car, driving past me and going to his fucking house. So, you know, I wasn't too thrilled about it, but she swore up and down she wasn't cheating on me and all this shit. So just bear with me. I mean, this is a lot, you know. I didn't like exactly, I planned on doing this today, but not right now, you know, so, you know, it's not as fresh in my mind as I would like it to be, so just bear with me. So, I wasn't too happy about that. You know, when she swore up and down, like I said, that she wasn't cheating on me. It was just about the drugs, and, you know, that's who she gets it from, and whatever. And me being a drug addict, I mean, it's not like I can expect her, nor would she have anyways, just cut ties with them then and there if that's the only place she could get her drugs. So, you know, after a while, I got so sick of it. I mean, I was like, I don't know, maybe a little more than a year clean. I mean, I was doing Suboxone. I was getting it off the street. I am prescribed Suboxone now, by the way. I've been prescribed Suboxone for over 3 years. Been doing great. But that's how I was basically treating myself, because at the time when I tried getting into a clinic, I couldn't get into one, and then the only one I could find that would accept new clients or new patients at the time were like wicked mean about it, and it was like $300 or $400, like a visit, I think, and then plus the prescription, whatever my insurance would have paid for that. So basically, it was cheaper to get it off the street, and at the time, I just couldn't have afforded it, you know. So, you know, that's what I was doing. So I was thinking, you know, like, you know, good people think sometimes, you know, about doing the right thing, or wrong thing for the right reason. So I said, well, how about this? How about I do it with you for a couple of weeks and then we quit together? You know, of course, naturally, she was all for that, you know, because I thought I could handle it, you know. I had never done heroin before. I mean, I tried it once. I mean, pills were my thing. So then, you know, she kept, a couple weeks went by, she kept throwing it in my face. You know, she loved the fact that I was doing it with her. And, you know, and then she basically got me addicted to it. I mean, in retrospect, like, I got myself addicted to it per se, so to speak, but I didn't plan on keeping doing it, and she just kept throwing it in my face. Oh, come on, you know, getting all lovey-dovey about it, you know, and then naturally, being a drug addict, you know, that took over. So I started doing it more with her, and then before you know it, I was full-blown fucking into it. But I quickly recognized that, and I talked to a buddy of mine that I used to get the Suboxone from, and you know, he was like, oh, you got this, dude, you can do it, you know, just quit, you know, I'll help you, you know, give you what you need and whatever. So I got back on Suboxone, went through the withdrawals a little bit, got back on Suboxone, and, you know, I was fine and stayed away from it, and I've been clean ever since. But she wouldn't quit, you know, so, and there is a very big point to this, I'm getting to that, but I got to tell the whole story, so, wouldn't be right if I didn't. So then she started just going downhill and getting worse. And, you know, then I was just getting really worried about her because she was gone a lot. You know, she wasn't lying as much really anymore about what she was doing. But I was getting, like, concerned. So, you know, I didn't want her driving around selling the shit. I didn't want no part of it. But, you know, there was this, you know, guy I wasn't too comfortable with her meeting. He was an older guy. His name was Mo. He had like a used car dealership, you know, a little rich fucking faggot kid, you know. And she would say how he would hit on her and he was trying to get in her pants and shit, you know. So I just was worried about her, you know, because I was like the main guy she sold to because he bought a ton of shit from her, you know. So she didn't really need to sell them to anybody else. She did here and there, but, you know, it was mostly him. So I would drive her sometimes in her car, sometimes my car, to go meet with the fucking dude. I mean, nothing would be done in front of me. I mean, she would always go in his car or, you know, whatever, or I would go somewhere else while they did their business or whatever, because I didn't want no fucking part of that shit. You know, that part of my life, you know, was over. You know, I got in trouble for it. You know, I wasn't about to put myself at fucking risk because I had gotten off probation. I had 2 years probation. I gotten off a year early for good behavior, but I still had a 6-year suspended sentence hanging over my head for like a little bit longer. That's no longer the case, though. I don't have any suspended sentences. It's been years since then, so obviously. So I would drive her sometimes to do that. But still wanted no part of it, had no part of it. I just was worried about protecting her. I didn't want her getting robbed. I didn't want her getting hurt. You know, I didn't want her doing it, period. So, you know, like I said, the wrong thing for the right reason. Doesn't make me a bad person. Doesn't really mean I really did something wrong because I didn't. It was still my business. You know, it was between me and her. So, that being said, then I found, you know, I realized throughout our relationship, she definitely cheated on me a few times. I'm not going to get into too many specifics about that because it's just pointless at this point and not the point of the story at all, but it's just the point to what led into what happened with the story I'm going to be talking about, which is all the complete 100% truth, by the way. Now, it is getting dark. I'm going to try to do as much as I can today. If not, I will continue this video on after I post this one. So, she started acting really weird all of a sudden. And now, somewhere in the beginning part of me finding out she was a drug addict, figuring out she was a drug addict, her admitting it to me, she had told me her ex-boyfriend got in trouble with the cops and he was going to rat out people to get out of it. So he'd have to go to jail. She never mentioned she was with him or that she was in any kind of trouble. I think I even asked, but she, you know, didn't say anything of the sort. I figured out later on that that's actually what happened, and that was the case. So she started acting really weird, started showing the signs of cheating, you know. I'm sure everybody that's going to watch this video knows exactly what it feels like when they know someone's cheating on them and the things that they do and the way they act. Nothing I need to say. So I started trying to catch her doing it. I almost did a couple of times. Like, I came really close, but it was just a lot of obvious things. And I spent 2 weeks trying to catch her with who she was cheating with, you know. And it fucking drove me nuts. It broke my heart, and I was devastated. So I was a fucking mess. Meanwhile, I'm working full-time as a CDLA driver, tractor trailer trucks. And, yeah, I was a fucking mess. So, it's cold out, my nose is runny. So, yeah, then, I remember, the couple days before this happened, I remember I called her, because I was looking for her. He said she wouldn't answer me before. And then I heard a guy pick up and said, here, talk to him. Like, and she just was acting really strange on the phone. So that right there gave me a really bad sign. I was like, okay, something seems more than just cheating now at this point. Like, so I've been through a lot, seen a lot, been through a lot in my life. So I just, like, you know, I hadn't talked to her, I'm like, whatever, and, you know. And then I ended up kicking her the fuck out of my house because I couldn't take it anymore, the way she was treating me. You know, fucking, she was treating me like shit. Like, you know, and I just couldn't take it anymore because she broke my fucking heart. She was cheating on me. So, you know, I kicked her out of my fucking house. I couldn't deal with the drug addict stuff anymore. I didn't want it around me. And that was that. And now, right after that, is when I went to work. I didn't get hardly any sleep. And there were some times in between there where people were fucking with me where I live on my road, like this, you know, stopping in front of my house, pulling down my dirt road. Like, you know, I was thinking like this is the person that she was cheating on me with at the time. You know, I remember and they parked like on my dirt road right near my driveway and just sat there. So I walked down to the fucking dirt road, and the motherfucker was in like this minivan kind of thing, and fucking like charged right at me with the car and tried running me over, and then took off. And then right as he took off on the main road, like literally right as he took off, I get a text message from somebody, you know, saying something stupid that didn't really make much sense. So I'm thinking it was that person that did it, but it turns out that it wasn't, you know. But still, the time of the text message, you know, whatever, you know, it's important for later, because it may not have even been him that texted me. But anyway, so I'm on my way to work that morning. I was running a few minutes late. Sometimes, you know, I'd be a few minutes late, but it was never a big deal because I'd always get my load to New York on time, regardless if I was a few minutes late or not, because I, you know, got my job done. And so they didn't really bust my balls, but I was a little bit later, you know, than like 5-10 minutes. I was like maybe like 20-25 minutes late. So sometimes this girl, Holly, that was a dispatcher, would call me and bust my chops a little like that, you know. But, you know, it was never nothing bad, just, you know. So she had called me, and she just had this like weird expression, different than ever, and this like kind of cocky arrogance to her voice, like she was expecting something. Like, that's the only way I can describe it. And I just found it weird. I just got this bad feeling, and I had some alcohol in my trunk, all closed container except for a few nips that I had already drank, and they were just chilling in my trunk. And so I stopped at this store to just throw them in a dumpster. I just had a bad feeling. And, you know, and then as I'm about to turn around and pull in the store, this car just puts on his blinker and just abruptly turns in the store. And I'm like, what the fuck? You know, it was weird. It turns out it was kind of a friend of mine who was a friend of one of my good friends that I was partners with. We were partners in selling drugs and stuff. And it was his friend, but he used to get shit from me sometimes. And he was supposed to be in jail because he was on the news for shooting off a shotgun in his apartment after being all fucked up on Xanax and shit and fighting with his girlfriend, and the shotgun blast went into somebody else's apartment. So he was supposed to be in jail. And his name is Justin, by the way. And he like was sitting there. He walked in the store, walked out. he like looked at me, but he wouldn't look at me. Like he wouldn't look directly at me. You know what I mean? He was like waiting to see if I would acknowledge him. It was just really fucked up. You know, it was weird. He's just sitting there packing his cigarettes and just looking straight in front of him at the store with this like look on his face like he didn't want to be there. Like he really didn't want to be there at all. And I didn't say nothing to him. I just didn't feel right about it. Just everything was just too many series of events that were weird. You know, the people driving in front of my house and all that weird shit, you know. So I continue on to work. I hop on the highway. I get to where the tolls are. And now this is Route 3 in New Hampshire. You know, I pay for the toll. And I just noticed so many things like cars that were following me and people driving weird around me, like just like you're not everyday traffic. Like it was just really deliberate stuff that I was noticing. Like it just wasn't like any other day I drove to work, you know. It was just stuff I was picking up on. I'm like, okay. So now there's this. Now please bear with me and let's watch this entire video because this story gets very intense. But I guess I had to go from start to finish and tell it all for it to be right, so everybody understands. So I get up to work, and I was at Burger King by my work. I wanted to get something for breakfast. Now I see this like brand new looking waste management truck in the parking lot. You know, like one of them big trash trucks, like brand fucking new. Like it looked like it just came out of the showroom. Like when the hell do you ever see that, right? Didn't really think much of it. I thought it was a little weird because I know the traffic that goes around there, and I just never seen anybody pulling in with a waste management truck before. So, you know, I walk in Burger King, and then there's the cashier that I'm used to seeing, and this guy, and they're just standing there looking right at me as I walk in, and it's just like dead silence in the place. Like there's just nobody talking. And then after a couple seconds of them looking at me, all of a sudden everybody, including them that was in the restaurant, just start acting like nothing's happened, like they were already doing that before I even walked in, which was meant to scare me, you know. I know that now, obviously, but then I was like, what the fuck is going on, you know? So I ended up getting fucking scared, per se, because I was wondering, like, you know, this is not seeming right. I don't understand what the fuck is happening right now. So I just, like, you know, I turned around. I was texting on my phone, just walked out, went to work. I go grab my truck. I run up front to get my paperwork. And a guy in shipping and receiving, you know, he was a military guy, a real hard ass. He didn't really like anybody type, but he always liked me, you know. And he always talked to me. You know, a lot of people like me. Hell, I'm a good guy. But, you know, he'd always talk to me and joke with me and stuff, you know. And he wasn't like that with, like, anybody else there. And, except for maybe, like, a select few. But there were people that actually worked at the warehouse. They weren't drivers like me. And he just had this look on his face, a serious, dead-ass stare. And he didn't say one fucking word to me. So that's when I really knew something was off and something was up. And I just grabbed my paperwork. And I'm like, so what's wrong with you? He's like, ain't nothing wrong with me. And he didn't say nothing else. That was it. I'm like, okay. So I turn around, walk out. And now I got to backtrack for a quick second. The last 2 weeks that I'm talking about, every time I got my paperwork in my truck, I went back in my truck to pull around the building, there was always this guy in a Hyundai, like a purplish, like it's just like a silverish purple kind of color Hyundai, either Ascent or Elantra, you know, like early 2000 style, with mass plates, would always pull in, walking to the shipping office, and walk back out, and then he would pull back around the building, but he actually wasn't even parking there, he was just leaving. I figured this out with what I'm about to tell you. He never even worked there. So I get in my truck. Let me think. Oh, you know what? Let me rephrase something. I didn't actually grab the truck first that day. I went in my car because I was running late and I was going back to the truck that I was going to be getting. So I was still in my car at this point. My bad. You know, it was a long time ago, you know, like I said, it's not as fresh in my mind as I'd like it to be right now. So I stopped right before the parking lot is for the truck, so I just had this weird feeling. Get out of my car, smoke a butt. Because I, you know, had seen that dude again. And a couple minutes goes by, here he comes coming around the corner. The opposite direction of the direction he usually goes. And he was probably going to see where I was, obviously. And here he goes. He's like right in front of me. He looks right at me with like this dumbfounded look on his face, like because he didn't expect me to be there. And then he pulls out of the parking lot, drives down the fucking road, and he's just gone. So then I'm like, okay, so this guy, Doesn't fucking work here. Now I'm feeling like I'm being watched and followed and, you know, some FBI type shit. Because I've seen it before, believe it or not. You know, I've been through a lot. But that's irrelevant to this video. And what I'm going to be talking about. So I just want to make sure it's known. This isn't any bullshit. It's 100% truth. So I didn't know what the fuck to do at that point. I ended up pulling over by the trucks, calling my father because I just knew something bad was going to happen. And truth be told, I could have actually just went home and been fine, and everything would have been fine, and I never would have been bothered again. But, you know, I'm getting to that. But at the time, being intimidated like that, things happening those ways, that was to scare me, hoping I'd do something stupid. But what they were hoping for was to get me in the truck tired and, you know, maybe have some alcohol or anything to try to arrest me for some fucking bullshit conspiracy charges and whatever. I'm getting to that. I'm just figuring now is a good time to levitate the point a little bit. So it's a little more interesting. But so I ended up calling my father, and he was like already up in the morning, and he used to work second shift then, so he'd never really be up at that time. He was already up. So, oh yeah, I'm already up. Like he was expecting the call. So that was another red flag. And he wasn't talking quite the same. He sounded worried. Because he had no idea why I was calling him at that point. And I told him I needed him to come pick me up, that I wasn't comfortable driving home, and I wasn't going to work that day or something like that. So he's like, all right. So I had to sit there and I had to wait like an hour because where I worked was like an hour commute. So I had to wait a little longer than an hour. During that time, everybody that I worked with, well, not everybody that I worked with, but, you know, some of the people that I worked with, you know, that were coming back from their runs or coming in to leave for their runs or whatever, just wouldn't have come up and talk to me. But they kept doing weird ass shit. Like one pulled up in a tractor trailer truck and trailer. And he started way after I did, but he used to work there like years ago or something. He was an older guy who I was cool with, by the way. Pulls up and just starts laying on the air horn, like, you know, beep, beep, like a bunch of times. He just kept doing that. And he just sat there for like 5 fucking minutes doing that. I'm like, what the fuck is this guy's problem? Now, he's probably like a couple 100 feet from where I'm standing. So, you know, that obviously made me uncomfortable. And then after that, the guy that trained me, who I was really close with, he was a really good guy. You know, he made like, he was going to like, you know, he pulled in like he was going to drive the truck into my car like as a joke. But just this whole facial expression, everything, it was just a fake. It was fake. It was a fake act, you know, and I could see that. And I could just tell like in his face, like he didn't really want to do it, you know, but it was all to fuck with my head to get me more worried at that point. So then my dad calls me, says he's almost there, and he's, you know, I told him, you know, where to go and stuff, and he was like calling out every road he was driving on as I was telling him where to go, and, you know, in a way like he was telling somebody else where he was. You know, it's exactly the way he was saying it. So he pulls in, and as he's pulling in, there's like a purple, early 2000-ish Jeep Grand Cherokee with mass plates, and the guy just looks at me like this, like a scared, dead stare, like don't get in his car kind of look, like you know what I'm saying, like I don't know how to explain it. It's getting dark now, I have to call out the sunglasses, but it was like a, you can't even really see me that good now, but it was like a, you know, you can't really see me, so I'll just have to keep saying it. Probably gonna have to turn around soon. It's getting dark quick. Whole reason why I'm out is so I can have peace and quiet while I do this video. So my dad pulls up, and you know, I'm like, Dad, you know what? I'm like, just go home. Because at that point I was worried about my father and what happened to my father. I'm like, just go home. I said, I'll find my own way home. Immediately, like, I mean, within a split fucking second, he starts bawling his fucking eyes out. Why won't you get in the car with me, son? Just get in the car with me, please. You know, all this shit. And someone just messaged me. Hold on. Actually, my soulmate just messaged me. I met my soulmate. But anyway, so, you know, and that just freaked me the fuck out even more. So I just was like, just go. I'm like, just go, you know. So he leaves. So I'm like, at that point, I got to change my number because now I know my phone's tapped. And like, you know, and I've been being spied on and watched illegally and shit. So I call up Verizon because I had a Verizon phone then. I don't right now, but that's going to be changing soon. right now I have the good old straight talk, which I thought was a good choice at the time, but obviously, apparently wasn't, but, you know, it's another conversation, another story for another time. Called Verizon, changed my number. Just hung up from changing my number. Had my new number memorized. As soon as I hang up, within, I'd say not even a full second, my phone's ringing and it's my dad. I answer, I'm like, how the fuck are you calling me right now? He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I just changed my number, so how the fuck are you calling me? He's like, oh, I don't know. I just hit your name and press send so I could call you. I'm like, well, you should have been able to call me because my number's not the same. Come to find out, they had already illegally cloned my phone and everything and manipulated it so my number didn't change. Because my number, when I checked after, my number was still the same then. Not the same number I have now, obviously, but so that freaked me the fuck out. Like something fucking falling off a tree over there. That's not what freaked me out. The what freaked me out, sorry, that kind of happened at the same time. I was saying that. At that point, he's like, son, can I just come get you? I don't want to leave you behind, this, that, and the other thing. I'm like, no, just go home, Dad. Like, I'll find my own way home. He's like, all right. So I started walking. I walked off my work's property, started walking down the road, because at this point I really wanted to assess my situation and see what the fuck was going on. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, all these people came out of nowhere, started walking by me, and I could just tell they were cops, like undercover cops. And they wouldn't say nothing. I didn't say nothing to them, but they were just, you know, walking past me, like trying to intimidate me and shit like that, you know. Places where people never are, you know, because my work was in like a development, like, you know, like a house, like houses, like a new development with houses, like where it's just this one road, it's just for the houses. It was like that. It was like an industrial development, so it was kind of far from the main roads and stuff. So, you know, and sometimes people would walk on their brakes, but it wasn't at times where people would be on their brakes, you know, and it wasn't where people usually would walk, and it was like a significant amount of people to the point where it was very suspect. So it was, you know, and another thing, I'm not exaggerating any of this. I'm saying it verbatim for exactly the way it was. And for what it is. So anyway, I keep walking. I get to the main road finally, and all of a sudden there's just like a ton of traffic everywhere, like way more than normal, because this was like, you know, late morning at this point. And there's this UPS truck, this old UPS truck with a guy in a UPS uniform, but the truck looked like it was from like the late 70s or 80s. And it had like a fresh paint job, like it was brand new, but it was like that style truck. It was that old. And he kept fucking following me as I was walking down the main road. In every parking lot I passed, he kept pulling into, pulling out. Then he would go ahead of me a little bit, pull out everyone. I mean, every fucking one. And there's just like a line of different stores and houses on this road and everything. He obviously didn't pull into any houses, but everything that was a store he did. And I'm talking like, you know, this, from the distance I walked, had to be in at least 40 parking lots he pulled in, you know, or something close to that anyway. Can't remember exactly now, but, you know, I think it's self-explanatory enough, like what I'm saying. Like, it was very obvious. And I kept walking. I walked a couple miles, and then I decided, like, you know, I'm just going to go back to my car. But then I just noticed more people following me, and as I was still walking, there was like 3 cars that swerved at me in the same fashion, one right after the other. Like, it was just like a quick 1, 2, 3 swerves, like, you know what I mean, one after the other. It was like very calculated and very obvious, like, you know what I mean. It was like just a quick little swerve, and it was 3 cars did it, you know, one after the other. I mean, you know, and that happened a couple of times with different cars, you know, at different times. Like, you know, it was like 2 or 3 cars like that did that shit, and so, you know, they were trying to like scare me and stuff. So this was in Hudson, New Hampshire, by the way. So when I get to where I decided to stop walking, there's like this long bridge, like over like a little river or lake or something like that. And during this whole time I was walking, there was this one Hudson police officer in an SUV who kept driving past me. He must have drove past me anywhere, I'd say, from 10 to 20 times within 45 minutes, I would say. I was walking on the main road, something around there. Right now it's getting dark. I might have to turn on my flashlight if I can. I think I can. Yeah, I can. I'll make life a little easier right now. You probably can't see it because it's facing the other way, but this way I can see where I'm walking. As you can see, it's getting really dark out. So at this point, he drove by me again shortly after I got to that bridge and kept driving. You know, he like wouldn't really look at me. He just kept driving by. So after that, I'm like, I'm just going to call 911 because now I'm in fear for my life. I don't know what the fuck is going on. Like, I had my assumptions, and what I thought it might be, but like, you know, at that point, I just was scared the fuck. Like, I didn't know what the fuck was going on, why it was happening, nothing, because like, I didn't do nothing wrong. So, you know what I mean? I was out of that kind of life, so it's not something I really would have been watching for, paying attention to or anything, you know? So I called 911, and I don't want to say that was the biggest mistake I ever made, because it really wasn't. I should have at that point, because I was in fear for my life. But, you know, little did I know, you know, because that was when smartphones were still kind of new, you know, that they could do this shit with regular fucking phones too. I mean, like reroute calls and stuff. They rerouted my call to somebody that worked for them, and or they just had somebody at the dispatch office. You know, it was either one or the other, but it wasn't an actual 911 dispatcher that I spoke to, because this is how the conversation went. You know, they said, no, 911, what's your emergency, you know, whatever. And I said, I'm in fear. I said, I think I need someone. I don't know if I said I need someone to come get me, but I remember saying I was in fear for my life. I said, there's people that have been following me around all day. So I don't know what the hell's going on. I said, but I'm really uncomfortable. You know, and I still don't know what to do. And then this girl on the phone laughs, like, and she's like, oh, really? She's like, where are you? Are you on the bridge? Is that where you are? Just like that. Now, does that sound like something that a 911 dispatcher would say that answers emergency calls for a living to help people in need? No. You know what I mean? And that right there just like basically sealed the deal for me. Like, I was just like, what the fuck is going on? So I hung up. I said, you know what? I said, forget it. Never mind. I said, I'm fine. And I just hung up. I put my phone in airplane mode so nobody could call me. And now this is the point to the story. Everything from here on out. Within 10 to 15 seconds, out of nowhere, I was swarmed by about 15 to 20 cops. Marked units, undercover cops, you name it. And the first one that approached me, and one of those cops includes the one that was circling me, by the way. And the one that approached me was, you know, just had the undercover cop jacket on. I don't know if he was FBI or just an undercover detective, but I'm leaning more towards FBI, and just, you know, acting like he was a cop. And he's like, hey, sir, what's the matter? You got a problem? I said, I got no problem. I said, I'm good, just walking. And they all swarmed me and blocked me off so I couldn't fucking walk anywhere. And then they all fucking came up to me, ransacked me, picked my pockets, you know, were searching me illegally. Like, I didn't consent to be searched. And they started pulling my phone, my keys out of my pocket. You got anything on? You like, and no crime was committed. No, nothing happened. You know, I said exactly how it went. And you know, and they kept asking me for my name, and I just would say, like, I don't know, because you know, everybody knows you don't talk to cops. I mean, they weren't there to do me any good deed. You know, at that point, I'm like scared shitless. I don't know what the fuck is going on now. You know, couldn't even understand why it was happening at the time. I just, you know, knew the series of events that led up to it. So, think how you would feel at that point. So, they kept asking my name, you know, whatever. And I said, I don't know, and I wouldn't say nothing else. And I think I said I was fine a couple of times. I said, I don't know why this is happening. And they wouldn't say anything, and they were just being really smug and arrogant. Then they took my phone out of my pocket. I don't know if I already said that. Thinking about a lot of things right now. They took my phone, everything out of my pocket, took my phone out of my pocket, and then they're trying to go through my phone. And then they look and see that it's in airplane mode. And he's like, oh, his phone's in airplane mode. Like, that's why they couldn't get through to me or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, and like, just remember that this was like 15, 20 seconds after I hung up with the fake 911 operator. You know, not enough time for anybody to communicate that they couldn't get through to me or fucking whatever, you know what I mean? Because it all happened right after, you know. So after that, you know, I freaked the fuck out. I kind of collapsed. And then they, like, you know, kind of held me as I went to the ground. And then the ambulance came, and the EMTs checked me out, and they could see I was fucking freaking out and that I was a fucking mess. And they said my pulse was very thready, like I was a fucking mess, like, and it was probably a good idea for me to go to the hospital, to the emergency room, to get like, hydration, whatever, to make sure that I was okay at that point, And that's what they did. They, said, we're going to take him to the hospital. And then, that was the end of it. I never committed a crime. Nothing was said. You know what I mean? That should have and was supposed to be the absolute fucking end of it. Now, this is where it gets more interesting. So they put me in the ambulance. They were taking me to Southern New Hampshire Medical Center, I believe. That's the hospital over there in Nashua, I think. Yeah, I'll keep walking a little further before I turn around because I want to stay out here while I make the video, while it's quiet. I'll get to that more later too, during this video or other videos. But anyway, so I'm sitting in the ambulance, and then, I'd say almost 5 minutes goes by, and we're not moving. I'm like, what the fuck is taking so long, All of a sudden, the side door to the ambulance swings open and slams. This guy walks in, and he's in like the gray fucking... the gray, military, like FBI issue pants, the black fucking long sleeve shirt, the SWAT boots, the whole SWAT get up, like things they would wear if they were training, like at a training center for firearms training and shit. So, fucking, he's like, hey! And he fucking sits down, like, oh no, he still stands, and he just grabs my fucking hand, takes a pen he had, jammed it up underneath my pinky nail, so fucking hard, like, I don't know how I didn't scream and how my fucking nail didn't come right fucking off. I think it was my pinky or my index finger. I'm trying to remember exactly now. It was one of those two. I think it was my my pinky. Yeah, it was my pinky. Yeah, it was my pinky. So then he after he did that, and I just sat there. I barely even had a fucking response because I was so fucking scared. My adrenaline was going. I was freaked out. I barely, it hurt like fucking hell, but it's like I just couldn't register it, I guess is the only way to say it. And then he says to me, you need to talk to me. That's how this works. He's like, I know you've had a rough couple of weeks or a rough 2 weeks, but you need to talk to me now. That's how this works. And I'm thinking to myself, what the fuck are you talking about? And keep in mind, like what I said earlier in this video, like for 2 weeks, I was trying to catch my girlfriend at the time. Like, I thought, everything was good with and everything, like, that I thought I was going to have a great relationship with and everything. And, more or less what I'm trying to say is the girl I thought at the time, like I was going to spend my life with, but obviously not. So, sorry, I'm getting a little off pace now. I'm just trying to make sure I say everything in detail so it's completely understood. So how the fuck, why is he saying that to me? So obviously he watched me that whole time. And now that I said that, now, I just got to say this, I really did meet my soulmate now, and the girl I met now is a girl I am going to be spending the rest of my life with. Most amazing, most beautiful person. Most amazing girl I've ever seen, ever met, ever in my life, and I'm very fortunate and very lucky and grateful to God every day. So anyway, back to the story. So he keeps saying that same shit, like, you need to talk to me, and he's like, is there anything you want to tell me, this, that, and the other thing. He was trying to get me to incriminate myself, and there's laws against self-incrimination. He wasn't even supposed to be in that ambulance. As soon as he walked in that ambulance, as if like what they were doing was already illegal, clearly, because they were trying that hard to find a way to get me in an interrogation room to try to get me on conspiracy charges for things that I had absolutely nothing to fucking do with and no knowledge of. And because and honestly, I don't know what they were going to throw at me. I just know that was the gist of it, obviously. Think about the series of events that I'm telling you. And, and then I didn't say anything to him. And I'm just like, I got nothing to say to you. And then he threatened me again. And he says to me, if you don't talk to me now, you're going to be held in a mental hospital for a very long time against your will. And I'm going to ruin your fucking life. That's what he said. And I still didn't say nothing. And then we were almost at the hospital because it was only a few minutes from there. And then he threatens me again and says, all right, Billy, I'm going to put an IV in you now. This is probably going to hurt. All right, bud. And then I just said, I don't want to be touched any further. And then he says, okay. And then he, stopped touching me and grabbing the, the IV needle and stuff and whatever. And then my phone just magically drained itself. It went from like about, I'd say 80-something%. It just warned me that it's at 15% because my phone's being hacked into all the time lately. I'll get into that more later in this video or the next one, so I might not be able to finish everything, but the point of this video is at least the gist of it, and what happened that's going to be leading into everything I'll be talking about, So, hang on, I got another message. I just got to move this here. Okay. So, let's say, so anyways, they take me out of the hospital, the ambulance, and bring me into the hospital, and then he says to the nurse, oh, he wouldn't talk to me, get him to talk. And then she was like, oh, well, we'll get him to talk. We'll get him to talk, just like that. Okay. Now, I want to keep walking up this way, but I have to turn around now because at 15%, I don't know how long it's going to last, and I definitely don't want to be out here without a flashlight. Fucking A, man. So that's like a telltale sign, by the way, one of like 15 that your phone's being hacked into and someone's illegally watching you through it. If your phone battery fucking drains that fast. This video has only been going 41 minutes. My phone battery's not going to go from 80% to 15 in that amount of time. I mean, that's just unreal and unrealistic. So, hold on one second. So after that, I didn't realize this is what was happening because there was no reason to do this to me because I was just freaked out because over somebody following me, like, nothing else. They put me in a fucking psych ward, in a psych room, with a camera, and all this shit and just left me there. And before that, they put me in the hallway and then they have this nurse, like, with a cart full of needles. Like, I mean, a cart taller than, like, fucking 6 feet. Like, just full of needles on one side, and she just, like, wheeled it over and put it right in front of my fucking face and just left it there, like, to intimidate me, you know what I mean? Like, so, I mean, I'm sure for obvious reasons you can understand, the drugs, and shit like that, even though I didn't shoot up with a fucking needle, so, but anyway, that's when I started being illegally harassed, followed around, fucked with, tortured, tormented, my life basically ruined for 5 fucking years. And recently is when all that has started to change because I took a lot of steps and figured out a lot of things, and there's a lot to cover and talking about all that, so that's not going to be in this video, but this is the point. That's when that all started. Then all of a sudden, my dad was there shortly after. I'd say I was sitting there for like 20 minutes and he comes walking in. It looked like he had like a little microphone under his fucking top of his t-shirt. He starts talking to me, and he starts fucking talking about random shit, like my friends and drugs and all this shit. And I just didn't really say much, and they kept trying to give me a blood sample, which I wouldn't give, because what the fuck do you need a blood sample for? I'm not here for anything. They took me to the fucking hospital after fucking I was scared I was being fucking followed, and I felt like my life was fucking threatened. So, he just kept babbling on, and then I said, I want to get out of here. And then they got caught in a lie. First, they said that they found me laying on the ground by the bridge, and then one of the nurses said that, I was found walking by the bridge. And then I was like, so why the fuck are they lying? Why is one saying this and one saying that? And then they basically were like, oh shit, we just fucked up. So then right away, they released me. Let me right out of there. No questions asked, whatever. As I walk out with my dad, there's a guy sitting there staring at me in the parking lot in a white Chevy Impala, I believe. Yeah, it was an Impala. It was a white Chevy Impala with mass plates, just fucking staring at me, grilling me. Like, grilling me hard. So we get in the car, and my dad's like, yo, you want to get something to eat? And I'm like, yeah, sure, I guess. I'm kind of hungry. He's like, you want to go to Burger King, McDonald's? Where do you want to go? I'm like, I don't care. He's like, oh, I want to go to 2nd Street and see what's there? I'm like, sure. 2nd Street's in Manchester, New Hampshire. There's a bunch of little restaurants and stuff, whatever. places I've been a million times all my life, you know. It's, you know, whatever. So we get close to there, and he's like, you know how Burger King does Whoppers, McDonald's does Big Macs. And I think I just heard a coyote. Oh, see, my phone's already fucking dying. And then my dad started saying shit like, "Oh, let's go to Burger King and get a Whopper." I'm gonna have to cut this video short because I gotta use my flashlight while I can to get back to my car. So I'll pick this up after.